Restoring Illinois to greatness. This is Illinois Rising, presented by the Illinois Opportunity Project and hosted by AM 560's Dan Proft.
Dan and Ted back on this edition of Rising, and as we continue to go around the infield of bad units of government in Chicago and Illinois, we'd be remiss if we didn't tackle the Chicago public school system, Abuse Inc. We won't talk about the abuse culture today. Let's talk about the abuse of taxpayers. CPS, huge bailout last year. $17 billion pension bailout is really what CPS got. And, of course, for a unit of government that is junk rated and runs billion-dollar deficits annually, that instituted a new discipline so they don't have to do that again. They're going to tighten their belt. They're going to live within their means. They're going to internalize all of those cliches and make sure that CPS is spending its bailout dollars wisely. Is that what's happened, Ted?
Good one.
Yeah.
I think so many people were skeptical, right?
About riot.
So many people were skeptical about the bailout, and for good reasons, right? And so, just recently they came out with this plan, and again, like you said, you'd expect some kind of, humility, and instead they said, no, we're gonna spend $1 billion more. We're gonna hire 13% more school administrators, ignoring the fact that the school continues to shrink, ignoring the fact that, we did a piece on all these school buildings, 17 school buildings that are dramatically, they're empty, right? They need to be shut down. They're going to defend those schools. They're going to just do even more of what they were doing. And all that will continue to keep that mess, that bankruptcy process in order. And
the overall increase in spend year over year is, in terms of projecting to 2019 fiscal year is 20%?
Almost 20%, 18%, which is phenomenal. Could you imagine every school district around Illinois would, of course they all want more money. They would love to have 20% more, but here we go. We bail them out to try to fix their problems. And what they do is they just keep spending more. And again, they're going to build new schools as if that's the priority for a place like that.
So enrollment's declining. New schools are being built. Old schools are not being shuttered. And spending is increasing. Currently, what are the numbers? A Chicago public school teacher retiring today who's maxed out will have put about $140,000 in, which is only really about a third theirs because CPS has been picking up 2/3 of the tab for the last 30 years. So really more like, $45,000, but let's just call it $140,000. $140,000 in, and they'll get guaranteed $2.1 million back.
That's right, about $70,000 starting a year, and then of course growing after that. The numbers just don't work.
And in the wake of the violence last weekend, we hear a lot about investing in our schools. Schools have to be better. We have to make sure that schools on the west and south side are as good as the schools in Lincoln Park and the north side. Are we underspending on the south and west sides of Chicago? Is there a lack of investment in those communities with respect to CPS? Because that seems to be what a lot of the politicians have indicated.
Yeah, that's what the politicians indicate. But when we looked at these 17 schools that used to be pretty big schools, a decade ago, people have fled.
They're gone.
They're gone. And what's interesting, they didn't leave the city. So the Tribune tracked a lot of these people. They just went to other schools. They implemented school choice on their own. So you've got this funny dynamic where CPS hates school choice, and yet these kids are leaving these failing schools and just trying to find any other school they can. So the question is, if you just opened it up better, perhaps a lot of this problem would be solved. And people would migrate to the schools that are best for them.
Well, right, and then perhaps those tax credit scholarships coming online will help facilitate that and increase its pace. But the other thing with the schools that you looked at, so what they're doing, though, even though they've got a fraction of the population, they're still pretending, in terms of personnel and staffing, they're still pretending like it's the same student population they had a decade ago, even though it's a fraction of it now.
Well, it certainly costs a lot to run a whole school, right? When a lot of these schools are at 13 to 20% capacity, right? So these are big schools that are virtually empty, and they're keeping them going. And imagine the economies you could have by putting those kids in a different school and taking those resources by shutting those schools down and leveraging them somewhere else.
Yeah,
That's being ignored.
imagine.